Okay, now we're live. Welcome to the video. My name is Dante Starshine. I'm going to talk about the astrology of this eclipse coming up. Oh. So the eclipse is, let me start recording 1 second. Okay, so again, hello, my name is Dante Starshine, and we are going to dive into the astrology of this lunar eclipse in Scorpio. And this is happening Sunday, May 15th, around midnight. So in Europe, it will be on May 16th, quite early in the morning, but some parts of Europe will also see it. The East Coast and all of South America will see the eclipse. It is the second eclipse of this year's eclipse season, which has been super powerful and intense. The eclipse season happens about every 6 months, and there is a lunar and a solar eclipse. They don't happen always in the same order. Sometimes there is a third eclipse. This is when the orbits created by the sun, the orbit of the sun, rather the Earth and the moon, kind of in their wobbles intersect in the right way that the Earth and the moon will block the sun's light to create these eclipses. It happens like clockwork. And at these times, subtle energies are very strong. And as the eclipses are sort of connected with our fate and our karma, our deep desire and the unconscious realm and the occult realm within us, whatever is stored inside that needs to get processed comes to the surface. And that's why these are really important times to be in ceremony, or at least be living intentionally and consciously, just so we don't get sputtered around by the energies. I've always, for the past years, I've been paying attention to eclipse season, but I remember last year eclipse season, I kind of somehow forgot that eclipse season was coming before it had arrived. And then I recognized on certain days that were super intense for me psychologically, and that's when the eclipses happened, and I hadn't the recollection. It's the first time in some years in studying this stuff that had happened. So to pay significant attention to it. And I also find these eclipses are moments where our psychic or energy body comes to release a lot. And if we bring ourselves into the right containers at the time of eclipses and around eclipses, we can really do some deep work on ourselves. So hopefully you enjoy this eclipse season and have something special planned. I hope to view the eclipse coming up with my family back in Pennsylvania. I'm visiting now after traveling all around. I travel all the time, but I don't come back that often. So special time with family and interesting time to see an eclipse. Anyway, we're going to talk in this video about the eclipse in Western astrology and in sidereal astrology, Vedic astrology, and a couple of different Mayan astrologies as well, just briefly to talk about the overall energy of the eclipse is something that I was curious about exploring in this more intuitive way, bringing in many other systems. And I've been working with astrology for 10 years, but now I'm just beginning to study Vedic sidereal astrology, which is, it shows many different lenses. I experience every system of astrology as a lens that allows me to pick up certain things and observe certain things about events, and I like the way that the two systems interchange, and it informs me more about Western astrology as well. And the planets are often in different signs because there's a 24-degree difference. And I won't go too into this technicalities in the video because I don't feel like that's why people really watch this, but I would like to make a very technical astrology video soon. But anyway, there's a 24-degree difference. So some of the signs, the planets are in different signs in one system as opposed to the other. But I'm here in Zoom right now. I'm not directly on the YouTube Live platform because I want to share the chart of the eclipses, which is just a lot easier to do in Zoom. Share. Photo. Cloud. Oh, I really hope it doesn't show anything weird. Downloads. Hi, Robert. How's it going? Good, and you? Okay. Oh, no, that's okay. My friend I'm staying with came home for a moment. Okay, there's the chart if you can see it. So the moon is there in Scorpio, the sun in Taurus. This is an eclipse in Scorpio. What's this one? Oh, wait, this is the... I wanted to start with the Western chart, actually. There we go. So, as I've said, sometimes the planets shift signs in different systems, and luckily this time, as it sometimes happens, in both systems, the planets are in Scorpio and Taurus. What's very potent about this is we have Uranus very close to the sun at the time of the eclipse. So Uranus gets involved here. And this north node that you see with the sun glyph, if you can read these charts, is... Sorry, I get... Sorry. I get a little distracted as spaces change. I'm trying to grab my focus again. Uranus, as this planet of transformation and sudden insight, epiphanies, makes any of the events that it's connected to kind of surprising or shocking, and it can be a time for a really big turnaround in our lives. What I feel overall during this eclipse season is that a lot of people are shedding toxic patterns and getting to a point of recognizing in these times that it's time to let go of certain bad behaviors that are affecting our lives, like addictions. Seeing in a lot of people close to me and feeling it in the overall field, that and a lot more transparency about that. I think this is in part because the eclipse is in Scorpio and the South Node is in Scorpio. While the moon is debilitated in Scorpio, the South Node is exalted in Scorpio, or K2. And this is a place where this K2 or South Node, which connects a lot with spirituality, but also with loss, grieving, and renunciation. Renunciation is that kind of self-imposed loss that leads us to spirituality. The South Node speaks about, sometimes the universe takes things away from us, but those experiences bring us lessons that overall help us connect more with the whole. That's very much the energy of the South Node, but it's intense. So having the South Node in its home, it's like very happy and performing well there, giving us this experience of letting go of a lot of toxicity. And this eclipse is going to be a really big window for that experience to take place. So this is such a potent moment to let go of things. And remember, whatever you're doing in the moment of the eclipse is like, eclipses are kind of like spells, and time is like this spell. So when we pay attention to significant events that happen in time, and we dedicate our energy to what we overall want to bring into our life at that time, it cast that energy forward in a way as the eclipses bring in energies for the next coming year, and especially until the next eclipse season. So yeah, a lot of energy of letting go with this eclipse, and that's expanded by the energy of Uranus affecting the eclipse. Uranus about letting go, shedding, innovating to bring in something new. The evolution, planet of a lot of evolution. we see Saturn square the sun at this time, and Saturn square the moon, a T-square created by Saturn. So planets that are in this square energy, this angular energy, have a very strong connection to the eclipse itself. This makes Saturn, you'd see it as like the fourth house from the eclipsed moon. Saturn does well in these angular positions. It brings structure and stability, but also challenge. And as Saturn is that planet of time, it teaches us about how things change over time and age and mature over time. So there is that aspect coming in here. And Mars and Neptune create a trine and a sextile to the sun and the moon. And these two planets together in Pisces, well, Mars is the energy of the spiritual warrior, and or the warrior rather, and Neptune is planet of spirituality. Together, they are the spiritual warrior. And that brings in, the positive aspects of the spiritual warrior archetype, but also perhaps aggression based on beliefs, kind of negative crusades, jihad, missionary kind of energy can also be what the Neptune Mars archetype are. But we see sextiles and trines, blue lines. Those are harmonious connections, bringing in spirituality and that kind of spiritual warrior energy, perhaps. At the time of the eclipse, Venus is with Chiron, and Venus is in its detriment in Aries, not performing so well, not feeling so open. Venus is the planet of relating and relation, belonging to the sign of Libra. Aries is the sign of the individual and individualism, self. What do I want, need? So there, Venus has struggles to relate, struggles to find its place. And Venus with Chiron, Chiron is the point of our woundedness that leads us to heal, and our vulnerability that allows us to heal and returning to the all. It's this wound that we have in this vulnerable place. So we can be shy in our relationships right now. There's a lot of growth happening in relationships and how we learn to express ourselves and give and receive love and find the right boundaries with others. It's a sensitive time where perhaps we are focusing on our own needs, but we're learning to not let meeting our needs interfere with relating harmoniously. How do we meet our own needs together as opposed to how do I meet my needs and use you to do that? And Mercury is happy at this time in Gemini. It is opposing the moon, so it's adding some energy to it. Mercury in Gemini is in its own sign and enjoying this moment. We're probably going to be more chatty and communicative, but Mercury is retrograde and about to move back into Taurus, so it's moving towards the sun and the nodes. So there's that as well, that the retrograde Mercury always adds a certain level of haziness or a need to introspect more before acting, as things are a little bit more slow and introspective in terms of our communication and the expression of our ideas. I'd like to also share now, looking at the chart, the other chart, the Vedic chart. I'll still use this format because the other one I have is, maybe can I have the video and the share at the same time? I think if I do that, I pop up as a little image in the corner and we can have both. So here we have the planets in the same position, or at least the sun and the moon, the most important ones. We have some of the signs, some of the planets have shifted signs, not all of them have. Saturn makes an aspect to the moon, so it is a more serious energy. But at the same time, Jupiter makes an aspect to the moon, and these aspects is different than the aspects that you actually see in the chart. This is something unique to Vedic astrology called Graha Drishti, and every planet, and that means planetary gaze. Every planet has its own gaze. So some planets only gaze to the planet directly opposite it or 7 signs away, and other planets gaze to the planets 3 signs away, like Saturn, who gazes 3 signs away, 7 signs away, and 10 signs away, whereas Jupiter gazes 5 signs away and 9 signs away. So here from in the bottom half, you see Saturn in Aquarius, Jupiter in Pisces. Saturn looks 10 planets away, Jupiter looks 9 planets away. And they both aspect the moon, so it brings both a seriousness and an optimism. And it's especially beneficial, actually, because Saturn's in Aquarius in its own sign, Jupiter's in Pisces in its own sign. And Jupiter is also met with a planet that it isn't necessarily best friends with, but neutral to Venus. But Venus is exalted in Pisces, so they are lifting each other up, and it indicates a time of great artistic expression and desire and passion. The Vedic perspective also has that planets are in some signs they're in a friend's sign, sometimes they're in a neutral sign, sometimes they're in an enemy sign. The sun in Taurus is in an enemy sign. Venus is an enemy to the sun. So the sun feels a little bit weaker right now. Our sense of self and health vitality might be more diminished during that transit. But there is Mercury there uplifting the sun. And Mercury is happy in Taurus. It's a friend of Venus. So whenever the sun and Mercury are together, there is a sharper kind of intellectual focus taking place as the sun and Mercury accentuate those qualities together. The Mars is at a weak point as it's just about to transition into Pisces. And then Mars will bring a whole nother planetary energy into what we're experiencing with Jupiter and Venus. So things might start to feel slightly intense just for a moment when Mars shifts there. But things of a Martian energy will be in transition. So Mars is aggression, but Mars is also resolution of conflict. Mars is also the inner esoteric realm. It's our will to accomplish our goals. So we might be experiencing some transition in any of those areas around the time of the eclipse. From the Vedic perspective, we also see there's 27 stars on top of the 12 signs. So each of the signs within them has different stars that we look to as well for some of the meaning. And at this position where the moon is in, it's in this Nakshatra Vishaka. And Vishaka is a more intense nakshatra energy. It relates to the god Indra, who is the sky god and warrior god. So Vishaka is connected with things of battle and diplomacy around that. Vishaka is also connected with exchange of like financial exchanges, finding harmonious exchanges, you could say. Vishaka is connected with storms, or the god rather, Indra is. I'm still really just learning about these parts. So I wanted to mention it as it was another aspect of this that seemed to be about resolving conflict. There was something as I was reflecting upon the energy of these positions, I was like, there's something here about resolving conflict. So as I said before, the moon is weak in Scorpio, though Ketu, that lunar node, is strong. So there's a release, there's a letting go. There's also importance to gain as Vedic astrology and astrology in general say that the North Node creates this lunar eclipse. The North Node looks to the moon away from the eclipse. So it's not that the planet that's on top of the moon in that left side of the chart in Scorpio is what causes it. It's actually what's opposing it. And so here we have this Rahu in Aries, and Aries is a more kind of aggressive energy. That's another thing here that's maybe bringing to conflict resolution, warrior energies. That's very much the archetype of Aries. So North Node there brings that quality to it, and North Node is what we're kind of craving that leads us to our soul growth. But if it goes unchecked, it brings in hazy and crazy and disbalanced energies. So I'm not that traditional, but I look towards traditions to gain a lot of insight, and I'm still always in the process of doing that and learning that. What I see from Vedic traditions is that these eclipses and the nodes themselves are often very feared. They're something that they view with this energy of great caution, and they say not even to look at the eclipse. And I find that very fear-based, but I do think there's of great importance to observing and honoring the intensity and ferociousness of Rahu Ketu, who create the eclipses and the eclipses themselves as a force that can change our lives. And where that shows up is not just about where the planets are right now, but it's about how that aspects your own chart. So this is just, my observations about what could happen in the collective and how we all might experience this together, but it's going to affect everyone uniquely depending on their chart. What would you want to look to for this eclipse would be look at where Scorpio is and look at where Taurus is in your chart. And you would do that by knowing the ascendant of your chart, and the ascendant changes every 2 hours. So you need a quite accurate birth time. And then all of the houses have their own meaning. So you look to what house is Scorpio, and do you have planets there? And how do those planets aspect that house? And how do all of the other planets aspect Scorpio in your chart? Whatever house Scorpio and, well, Taurus as well are in is going to experience significant change and growth and transformation. So for me, Taurus is my first house. It's about myself. It's about my own identity and personality transforming and growing. And so that is what the ascendant is all about. But then that sixth house where the eclipse is happening is the seventh house, is the house of relationship. So also learning about relationships. But second house, your possessions. Third house, effort and your friends and siblings. Fourth house, family, home life. Fifth house, creativity, hobbies, creations like children. Sixth house, habits, rituals, daily routines, cleansing, and the bad habits too. Stuff we need to clean. Seventh house, relationships and other and partnership and that area of life, how we relate and grow with each other. Eighth house is the hidden stuff and other people's resources, inheritances, death, debts. It's another world of heavy. And also the occult, interesting realm too. Ninth house, knowledge, spirituality. 10th house, career and reputation. 11th house, your community, your network, and gains from your community and network. And 12th house is faraway realms, otherworldly realms, psychic energies, magical, hidden, unconscious realm. Those are what the general meanings of the houses, but there's a much greater exploration. And so there's a whole world to learn in astrology, and I do readings where we can help you look at how the eclipse or any event is impacting your chart, and or the energy in general over a time period impacts your chart and also your overall makeup. So if you're interested in seeing that, contact me for a reading. I think I spoke a lot about these charts. I want to make them go away and just speak into what other energies I'm feeling based on the other astrologies. And so this is the Mayan chart, and the sign is for road, and the Mayan language you pronounce that road is eh. And so the road energy is about journeying. The 4 is about stability. It's a number connected with the earth. So there's many different signs. One in the center is the predominant sign. And I just touch into this to feel the overall archetypal energy. I'm not as skilled at this, but I find it interesting to connect many systems. Comes from 9 net. The net is about our network and what ties us together with others. Moves into the energy of 7 sun. Sun is our Aku. It's this guiding light. It's the unconditional love. It's the spiritual vision. So there's that, and there's the other Mayan system as well. Oh, red planetary Earth. And this Mayan system, I find some benefit of. It is a channeled system, and it's something that I tune more into in a way to kind of recognize that we can read and observe energy through anything, even systems that are more random and not as traditional can bring synchronicity, can help us to recognize patterns as the universe is trying to communicate with us in so many different ways. And whenever we make a system of this nature, it functions through the seeming randomness to show us synchronicity. And this system is also about this glyph brings us synchronicity. I perfect in order to evolve, producing synchronicity. I seal the matrix of navigation with a planetary tone of manifestation. I am guided by the power of life force. What I notice that's in common with both of these Mayan astrologies, the last one was the road. This one is about the matrix of navigation. So it's about finding a new path. I see myself in a place of questioning, what are the next steps of the path at this eclipse? So there is something about beginning a journey. And it's guided by the serpent. So serpent is that primal instinctual energy. And serpent also connects a lot with the Scorpio archetype where the eclipse is showing up. So we are calling to that perhaps more primal energy to guide us on a new pathway at this time, is sort of the message that I get overall from these many different systems coming together. So thanks everybody for watching. That's the read. And I think overall, if I review this one last time for myself and for everyone, it's a time of letting go of old habits or toxic energies that don't serve. It's a time of negotiating and finding greater ways of expressing what our own needs are within relationship. It's a time of deciding for ourselves what the new pathway is and connecting with the heavens for divine inspiration and this clearing energy that can break loose whatever is static or stagnant within us. Because of that Uranus aspect here, there is the potential for epiphany now. Another thing I observe of the collective energies now is that regardless of where people at, they're tired of the psychological challenges that have come into this world during the times of the pandemic. And there's a striving for unity and a remembrance of love beyond who believes what and who chooses what with their own bodies, and a consciousness of care for one another. And I think people are recognizing that regardless of what they believe, everyone is doing what they're doing because they care about people. And we're bringing ourselves to focus more on that than anything else. And that's part of this Uranus energy coming to push back against the Saturn energy. We're still in that Uranus-Saturn square, and I talked about it so much on my channels that I didn't want to go too much into that, but as Uranus and Saturn will move more into an exact square again later into the year after Saturn retrogrades. This eclipse and the energy now is leading to bringing in more of the energy that's going to help us break through that Saturn-Uranus square dynamic that is the restrictive grasp of authoritative figures and governments, and learning to express our true freedom despite whatever's happening. It's still a really potent and important energy now in this changing world that can be really rough, but is super magical when we open our hearts to express who we really are and express what our needs are and express what our challenges are, so we can feel a part of that global community network, and the ones who we can help and the ones who can help us can come out of the woodwork and be so apparent. We can actually come together in this world that has been so fragmented. And that is the overall vibe that I hope everyone can attune to, because I feel like that is what is really going to change this world. And this eclipse is a cosmic event that is part of that greater unfolding. And I hope you can use this as a very magical window for yourself to invoke whatever transformation you seek and tune in with your own deeper desires and yearnings so that you can call them in over this next 6 months until we come to the next eclipse season and have this psychic window of revelation open once more. Thank you again for watching, and if this video information and energy has been helpful to you in any way, I would encourage you to like, subscribe, share, and you can go to dantestarshine.com, and that'll help you sign up to my email list if you want updates about anything that I'm offering, including the weekly channeling session and much more. You can also go to that website and discover about the readings and services I offer, and I'm available now at this time if anybody would like some deeper insight. Okay, love, hugs, many blessings, and enjoy this beautiful eclipse. And let me know what you think about this video, if it resonates with you. And if, yeah. I want to look at YouTube for a second and see if there's any comments there that I might want to feed back upon at this time. I don't know how long I've been going. Does the eclipse symptom only take place after the eclipse? No, the eclipse energy takes place 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after the eclipse. And depending on what happens during an eclipse or how the eclipse impacts your chart, that energy can come with you for, the rest of the year. And some astrologers measure the impact of solar or lunar eclipses based on how many minutes the eclipses last. And this is a pretty long one. I don't know why it disappeared for a second. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. And yeah, I'm gonna say Dante